All right, let's jump right in. We're looking at a complex and incredibly fast-moving conflict that has grabbed the world's attention. We're talking about a joint U.S.-Israeli military operation against Iran. A lightning-fast and deadly response, and an entire region just teetering on the brink. But, behind all the explosions and the headlines, there's one critical question that keeps coming up. Is there actually a plan here?
And this quote from analyst Dan Dresner, man, it just hits the nail on the head. It really captures the one question that everybody's asking. Is what we're seeing a calculated strategic move? Or is it just a massive, high-stakes improvisation with no clear endgame in sight?
So to really get a grip on this, we've got to go back to the beginning. We need to understand the spark. How did this whole thing kick off? And what are the real motivations driving it? Because let's be real, the official story, it might not be the whole story. Okay, so one of the big theories floating around is something called alliance entrapment. Basically, the thinking goes like this. Analysts like Dresner believe Israel was going to strike Iran, period, with or without the U.S. So the administration had a choice, right? They could either sit back and look weak, like they were getting dragged into a fight, or they could get out in front of it and lead the charge themselves.
And this is where things get really interesting. You see this huge gap between what they say they're doing and what people think is actually happening. Officially, the military goals are massive. I mean, we're talking about destroying Iran's navy, wiping out its proxies, and ending its nuclear ambitions for good. But then you look at what analysts are saying, and it's a completely different picture. They see something much more political, more reactive, a move designed to back up an ally and just project an image of strength.
So let's shift gears and look at what this actually looked like on the ground. Because for all this talk about a fuzzy strategy, the initial phase of Operation Epic Fury was anything but confused. It was swift, and it was absolutely devastating.
I mean, the speed was just shocking. Look at this timeline. The operation gets announced, and bam, less than 24 hours later, a massive decapitation strike kills Iran's supreme leader. Think about that. This was a deliberate move to take the head off the snake and totally upend the country's leadership. And yeah, they named his son as the successor, but many see that as just a way to consolidate power for the hardliners inside a regime that was already deeply fractured.
And the military campaign that followed was just relentless. We're talking over 400 targets hit by the IDF in a single day. And you have to understand, these weren't little pinprick strikes. No, this was a systematic effort to absolutely degrade Iran's ability to fight back. And what was number one on their list? Their missile capability.
So, how's it going? Well, by some metrics, that effort is working. The IDF is claiming to have destroyed an estimated 75% of Iran's missile launchers. So if the goal was to cripple their offensive power, that number suggests some pretty serious progress. But here's the thing. Military success never happens in a vacuum.
Because Iran hit back, and they hit back hard and wide. This is a really important point. This wasn't just a military-to-military fight. They targeted U.S. bases all over the Gulf, sure, but they also hit civilian areas in Saudi Arabia and critical economic infrastructure like a desalination plant in Bahrain. All of a sudden, this wasn't just a U.S.-Israel-Iran thing anymore. The conflict had widened.
And that right there is the crucial point. A conflict like this can't be contained. It's sending these massive shockwaves across the entire region and, by extension, the whole global economy.
The economic danger here is very, very real, and it escalates fast. Just look at these four scenarios. It starts with disrupting Iranian oil shipments, which pushes prices up a bit. But then it quickly moves to Iran disrupting all shipping in the Gulf, and suddenly, crude is climbing past $90 a barrel. Then, if the US and Israel attack Iranian oil facilities directly, prices could surge over $100. And the worst-case scenario? If Iran attacks its neighbor's oil infrastructure, we could see a price spike that makes the one after Russia's invasion of Ukraine look small.
You know, for years, these Gulf nations have walked this incredibly fine line, almost like a diplomatic tightrope. They've maintained their security ties with the U.S. while also trying to keep channels open with Iran. Well, this war just shattered that whole balancing act. With Iranian missiles hitting their territory, they are now caught directly in the crossfire, and their entire model of stability and prosperity is at risk.
So, all of this brings us to the critical strategic dilemma facing the White House. After unleashing epic fury, where does this all lead? What does winning even look like?
This is the whole ball game. What is the actual end game? Is it just to punish Iran? Is it to degrade their military? Or are we talking about full-on regime change? Because if you don't have a crystal clear answer to that question, you risk getting bogged down in an endless, unwinnable war. And according to reports, this very debate is happening inside the administration right now. You've got one side pushing for maximal pressure to keep going until Iran's capabilities are irreversibly destroyed. But then you've got the other side, advocating for risk containment. They're saying let's declare victory with what we've achieved and avoid another forever war in the Middle East.
And the final decision? Well, it's going to come down to a very complex balancing act. They have to weigh the military reports against the real-world costs. We're talking about rising U.S. casualties, the pain we all feel at the gas pump, pressure from panicked allies in the Gulf, and, maybe most crucially, whether the president's own political base will stick with him through a long and costly war.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. It's a monumental gamble with no easy answer. Do you declare a quick, maybe incomplete victory? That might feel safer right now, but it could allow Iran to just rebuild and remain a threat. Or, do you risk a long, unpredictable, and costly war to try and achieve total success? It's a high-stakes gamble with profound consequences for the entire world.